Tonight, I'm going to talk about inner healing, but more specifically, father wounds. In another video, I'm going to also tackle mother wounds, so guys, don't get offended. But let me get into this very quickly because I have a lot of notes. Y'all gonna want to play this over again. Probably get a pen and pad or jot this down in your notepad. When something happens to a person or something is said, it can result in a certain pattern of faulty thinking. Every pain point in your life all comes from a concerted assault on your identity. The assault may have come by different tools, resources, methods, whatever device the enemy chooses to use or whoever he chooses to use. But the goal of the enemy is still the same. He wants to distort how you see yourself. He wants to distort who you know that you are, and he wants to distort the gifts that are on the inside of you. You better get a pen and a paper handy because I'm trying to teach y'all something. And if you have any questions, drop them in the comments and I will answer them as well. So the enemy's favorite battlefield is in your mind. And I know you've heard this plenty of times. There's a connection between repetition and learning. When you meditate on an event or harmful word spoken to you, not only does it live in your mind, but it moves and it takes residency in your heart. The Bible says in Proverbs 27:3, so a man thinks in his heart, so is he. So when you meditate on something over and over again, let's give an example of when you were younger, somebody might have said to you, you're never going to be nothing. When you heard that over and over again, or your mind started to settle on it because it was spoken to you, a word curse. Remember, I did a video on that if you don't know. It was a word curse spoken over your life. So when your mind starts to meditate on it, now it goes from your mind and it plants a seed of the lie from the enemy in your heart. The Bible says, so a man thinks in his heart, so is he. So your heart is tied to your identity. The process, when I talked about owning your story, the beginning of the process of healing is first you have to identify your wounds. So let me go over this. What is a wound? A wound is an infraction or a violation against you. This is an inner healing issue and not necessarily a deliverance issue. Today, I'm talking about father wounds. Tomorrow, I'm discussing mother wounds because each parent plays a role in our development, whether it's whoever your parental figure was. A father wound is sometimes referred to as an orphan spirit. So even if you had a father in your life, at some point in your life, the orphan spirit, we all have dealt with it. Whether you've had a great father, an absentee father, your father passed away, whatever the story was, each one of us has dealt with the orphan spirit. The purpose of this wound that the enemy inflicts on us, and usually he tries to do it at a very early age so that way he can damage how we see ourselves from very early on and never get into the fulfillment of how God created us and the purpose that he has for us. The purpose of this wound is to create memories and experiences where we feel alone and like no one cares about us. The role of a father is to provide, protect, and give identity. I'm going to give some characteristics of people that are dealing with father wounds. These are some, not all, but take these notes really quickly. Number one, they're either extremely independent or they are extremely clingy. Number two, they often struggle with self-pity because no one was there to protect and provide for them. Remember, I said the role of a father is to protect, provide, and give identity. Number three, they can be performance-based workaholics because they have no clear identity of who they truly are. So they believe that they always have to perform. It's always their works that get them favor with people. They always have to be the best at everything because that's how people are going to like them. Number four, they can be extreme people pleasers and don't take well to criticism. Criticism will feel like rejection to them. They struggle with fear and they always want the approval of people around them because that's how they feel validated. So when you're an extreme people pleaser, if you're always worried about saying the wrong thing, doing the wrong thing, because you don't want the people that you look up to, the people in your immediate circle that you have a rapport and a relationship with, you don't want them to distance themselves. And this is where, again, we talk about how you were supposed to have an identity. So your validation comes from the people and the relationships that you have around you. Number five, they can be extremely insecure. They always want others to prove their love for them. So they're always setting up, when you're in a relationship with these kinds of people, they are always saying, you don't love me, you don't love me, you got to prove your love for me. You got to prove. They're extremely insecure. Is this helping somebody? And if it is, let's heart this video up, share it to somebody that you think this might help. All right, number six, They struggle with envy because they never feel like they are enough. Again, we talked about performance-based activities. So they always feel like they have to perform. They have to be the top of their class. They have to be the best at everything because that's the only way people are going to validate them. Again, they lack identity. Number 7, they judge themselves very critically. So they're very hard on themselves, harder than everybody else because they lack that identity and they're always searching and looking for somebody else or something else to validate them. So being the top of their class validates them in their identity, or so they think. Number 8, they are hyper defensive. Everything can seem like a personal attack on them because they lack the protection. So now they feel as though they have to protect themselves and prove to others who they are. When you have a father wound, you lack the identity that you should have gotten as an adolescent. And as a result, now you have to create an identity for yourself. And because you lack the protection of having that figure in your life, you are always forced to have to protect yourself. So they are always on the defensive. If you say something they don't like, they are quick to jump down your throat. They're sometimes hotheads. Now, the reverse to that is number 9. They shrink back. They have false humility. They feel as though if they share their real thoughts or feelings with others, other people might reject them. So they tend to harbor and hold a lot of things in. They're not really their true selves around you because they're afraid of how you're going to receive what it is that they're really saying, what's really in their hearts and what's in their minds. Number 10, hardness of heart. They do not easily forgive. And the reason for this is because they had to fight for everything in their lives. So the toxic trait that they have is they have to always protect themselves. They have to put up a wall. They have to put up a shield. You always have to prove that you love them. This is the situation that they place themselves in. They always have to be protected because they weren't protected. So forgiveness for them looks like a weakness. I'm going to say that again. Forgiveness for somebody that's dealing with the orphan spirit looks like weakness, because they spent their entire life creating their identity and trying to prove who they are and keeping themselves shielded and protected because they lack that. But I can tell you that unforgiveness is not for them, but it's for your own heart, your peace, and your sanity. There's a saying that says, when you have unforgiveness, what it is it's like you're giving, like you intended to give somebody a cup of poison, but instead of giving them the poison, you're drinking it and expecting them to die. So that's what unforgiveness is. You're harboring it in. They're not having no sleepless nights. You're not a thought in these people's mind, whatever they did to you, but you're constantly meditating on it. They're constantly disrupting your sleep. You're constantly feeling a way about it, but you're expecting them to feel the same way that you are, and that's just unhealthy. So when we talk about forgiveness, and we're going to get into this in the next video, forgiveness also does not mean reconciliation. It does not mean you have to reconcile with the person. It just means that person no longer takes any space in your heart and your mind, that you are no longer giving them a second of holding your thoughts captive. When you're trapped in unforgiveness, you're constantly affected by how what they did or said harmed you. So it's constantly in the forefront of your mind. When you think of that person, you get upset, you feel uncomfortable, it angers you, it upsets you, you become emotional. That's them still having a part of control of you. And the part of forgiveness is relinquishing that, saying they no longer have that space in your heart and your mind, that you forgive them and you moved on. You're not absorbing them from their responsibility and their accountability to what they did. You do not have to reconcile with them, but they no longer hold you captive. You're no longer responsive to how you feel about them, because that you can pay them dust. And that's when you know that you truly have forgiven somebody. Now, the only way to heal from a father wound is an encounter with the love of God. That's literally it. In the next video, in part 2, I'm going to be addressing the steps of healing from a father wound. What has to happen, what needs to happen, what kind of understanding you need to come into. If this is helping you, again, drop those comments, those questions below, and I will talk to you guys in another video.